he's probably my favorite and most uh, knowledgeable person in the UK. That's a lot to say that I know of. I've been involved with the conferences there. I've spoken most of them, and I know a lot of the players there. Oh, and up in Scotland, of course, you have a really good program up in Scotland. Uh, and those folks are just really so high on my list. And I can send you that reference too. They are just boy, my brain is kind of blocking a lot of things this morning, but that's because uh, I have a lot of things on my brain. But anyway, yeah, those two references, the one in Scotland and the one in and John, I think they're two that are worth two doors worth knocking on that I will send you, David, so that you have those.
Thank
They're
you.
my go-to people in the UK. Uh, there are many other things going on there. The I understand your frustration, and I have the same frustration after all these years. Yet it's lined with a bit of optimism, not cynicism. And and I tell you that because I feel that we're on the cusp of serious change. And even not to sound too not to overstate things, but even transformative change. The field has been in uh, oh in a limbo state. Let's call it that to be nice. For about I know this is going to sound bizarre, but for over 50 years, and there's a lot of reasons for it. And the kind of the ironic thing about it, or the odd thing about it, is that the medical profession, the universities, uh, all have joined in uh, uh, this system over the years in ways that help to support it, not help it in many ways. There are some professional things going on which are interesting and exciting even. But the field itself, there's more good theory out there than there is good programs. It's just and the reason one of the reasons in the United States and even in the UK to some extent, it depends on is the business model. The you know in in the UK like the UK like the United States, you have the and you don't call them publicly funded, but we in the United States they call them publicly funded. In the UK, it's NHS type, the funding that comes through that, and well, you understand all that very well. And then there's also the private in the UK as well, and those are the ones that are making money, and doing very well. Well, if you were doing that well, why would you want to change it? Yeah, it's just you don't have any real oversight. You have a belief system that you're doing something special and that you're the go-to people for recovery. So why would you want to change that? It's a great model, and it really protects uh, uh, the people who are providing the care and not necessarily benefits to a large extent the people who were getting the care. It's- so it's kind of, when I spent a lot of time in Liverpool, uh, and it was funny when we worked with the programs in Liverpool, we put together what we called they called them at the time user groups. I'm not sure I like that name, or but having that input and working with ground level people really helps a lot because almost everything comes top down rather than bottom up. I'm a bottom up kind of guy. I really believe that we learn from the community, from empowering community, from privileging local expertise, rather than taking theories and then bring them to the community and telling them this is what you have to do. There are smart people out there, but they just never get heard, and I think that's really uh, unfortunate. But what is it that your goal is right now, David?
So first of all, thanks for meeting with me again. I know you've been in this field since 1969, if I remember correctly. I was 4 years old when that was happened, and I was born into a alcoholic family, and my journey into recovery was I was kind of 12 stepped by my father back in 93. And then I went to kind of 12-step Minnesota route. And then in 2007, I broke away from that because I just didn't like the way the treatment center was treating families that would bring people that were desperate for treatment. And the idea was bring people in, beat them with a stick of denial, and charge the families money. It just felt corrupt and wrong. And my philosophy has changed over the past, say 20 years, where I'm much more interested in the wellness model and addiction recovery being a continuum of care and taking a systemic approach to it. Now, my thing is, I have lived experience. I'm dyslexic. I'm not an academic. My work needs research credibility to it, and I want to find ways of providing scientific evidence of what works in a bottom-up approach that healing the kind of or working with communities and bringing in the spirit of Ubuntu, which is an African philosophy, you get much better treatment outcomes because you can have someone come into treatment and they do well in treatment, and then you send them back to the neighborhoods or communities that the problem started in the first place. And I see you as being very vocal on LinkedIn. You've got a lot of experience, and I would like to sit next to a wise elder for an hour and just think, yeah, just kind of point me in the kind of right direction. Um, how's that for a small request? Knowing that I've
Well,
got
well,
knowing that I've
well,
got no money and that we do this out of the goodness of our hearts and just wanting to be good humans, which is,
well,
and I'm
yeah.
deeply appreciative of your time for that.
Well, my short answer is that I think you're in the perfectly right direction, and I think your thinking is clear and insightful. Uh, I don't, and because I mean, and I have, let's not. I don't call my background a recovery background because because I see recovery not as a label but as a stepping stone. So for me, it's not a place where you land, it's a place that you go through to get to another place. So so even in terms of talking about the continuum of care, David, I don't I talk about the continuum of life more than the continuum of care. It's your journey, whatever you want to call it. And so I think care is too narrow a focus for me. I really like to think about people more fluidly, and through a much broader lens. I've worked and I've managed every single kind of treatment program, and I've been in the universities. I've been through it. I've been through it all. I've been ridden hard and put away wet many times. I, I've been part of the solution and part of the problem as well. So, so I'd like to tell you that I learned the easy way, but I learned the hard way. And I have the scars to prove it. At the same time, I've landed in I think a good place. And even being here with you today for me is a gift because I mean it's these kinds of exchanges, these kinds of thinking outside the box, trying to see things differently and create pathways as you're talking about, which I think fuels our enthusiasm and keeps us in the field. It keeps us, thinking that change can happen, and I believe that. I believe in change, and I believe that people do get better, and there is there and I do work, as you know, on the community level mostly. Uh, that said, if we're going to talk about putting research, if you want to, or study around what we do to legitimize what we do, we don't have to do it from the academic perspective because you were saying, gee, you're not an academic. Well, I'm a recovering academic. So I'm trying to shed my academics. But I believe that the data that you're talking about, as I was saying earlier, David, comes from the bottom up, not from the top down. You don't have to go look for theories and studies, and because there's so much theoretical and so little applied research. It's mostly, on a level that, uh, you know, it's not where the rubber meets the road. It's not boots on the ground, which is really the most important. So understanding what the impact of what we do is, having a good understanding of, what is it that we're doing and how does that impact create change? How do we capture that so that when we see the next client, we are gaining a cumulative knowledge along the way so that we can do better care. That's what it's really about. Not about, you see what I'm saying? So you're seeing, a 5'7" guy from Hull, who ABCD, and you're collecting all this data that's essential, and you're following that recovery, but you're doing it in a way that you're creating a system that when you see the next person like that, you know what worked and that didn't work, and you keep refining that along the way. So you're building an informed system based on real knowledge. That's the set kind of systems that I work with, not coming in. I'll never come into a place and say, "Hey, there was a study that came out of John Hopkins and that says you need to do this." I say, well, it's not that I would I summarily dismiss knowledge or study. I just put it in my backpack and and use it for the right client at the right time. I just don't buy into any one theory, any one process. We're much too complicated, much too multifaceted. We live in a changing society, but the thing that makes me optimistic is AI.
Yeah.
Don't David, don't forget AI because AI, you
No,
see
no,
what
no. I'm a techie at heart, and I know you were in the you're in the telecoms industry. That's when you were in Johannesburg at one time, weren't you?
so yeah, we had a place in Johannesburg. We had a
Yeah,
place. We had 1 million employees at the time,
yeah.
and I had, we had, and I had 90 counselors. So it was all over mostly the United States, of course. Anyway, so yeah, we could digress easily. We could have some fun, but let's see if we can stay on track a little bit. Not my best thing, because,
So,
but
so, so I'm all for technology, and I'm all for using action research as a methodology to kind of make things up as you go along. You try things, you develop, and you learn as the planes kind of fly. So I'm all for that. Yeah. So I mean, I'm also very hopeful with technology.
yeah, here's the thing. Since we don't have any real, uh, let me say this in a kind way, if I can. Uh, we really don't know what works and what doesn't work. We really don't because you know, this may sound a little blasphemous, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's never stopped me. The As long as you're kind, I think it's okay. You know, it's like religion. You know, how many religions are out there, David? You know that,
Two and a half
uh,
thousand, something like that.
and they all believe that they're the right religion. Well, that's the way the field is. That,
Yeah,
you know, it's exactly like that. Rather than having a you know, another, you know, I'm not saying that everybody has to do things the same way or believe in the same thing. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm really saying is that we need to not stop competing as to who has who, you know, my dog's bigger than your dog, and start working together and collaborate to develop systems that provide better outcomes. We can't do that without having outcomes. So, but and now let me circle back, because here's the conundrum, and it's really a catch. What if you think, you know, remember catch 22? This is really a
yeah.
catch. This is a catch 22. You can't you can't move ahead without outcomes. But the treatment field doesn't want outcomes, because they have no desire to move forward, because the business model they're using is working. Why would I change? Like, back to that why would I
In
change that?
in 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 the private sector.
In the public sector too. Look, there's an ethos, a belief system about this treatment system that is not based on anything but a belief system, and it's developed over 50 years. You know, the go-to default position of sending someone to a rehab is not based on science, it's based on a popular belief. You know, not based on real outcomes. Oh, I'm going to send my kid to rehab or my brother to rehab because he's going to get better. There's a, you know, we don't know if he's going to get better or not. He may or may not, and it may be because of the rehab or in spite of the rehab, but we'll never know. But we do know that, excuse me, we do know that there's a knee-jerk reaction, a
Hmm.
just, you know, you know, it's a panic reaction. You know, you said it a few minutes ago. You know, that family that you were talking about a few minutes ago, David. That I agree with you. You really touched me when you said that. You know, that is just wants to, you know, wants care for their loved one. And what do? You know, they go to the default, the system. The system is a broken system, but it's the only system, and it's a crapshoot. They throw the dice and they hope for a better outcome, but they never know if they're going to get one. And the other thing that's so sad, often failures are blamed on the patient or the client rather than the program. You say, well,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah. It's your fault. You didn't surrender. You didn't embrace. You're still in
you
denial.
were you were in denial.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes on and on. And are you working with a treatment program, or do you have your own? What is this? What do you have right now? What are you doing right now, David?
So our model, just to we were 12 step, then Minnesota, then we got licensed with medical insurance, and then we moved to the biopsychosocial model. And I'm really into bringing coaching and systemic recovery coaching and to work in the wellness space. So it's much more about working with the individual and the systems of care around that individual to improve treatment outcomes and going on a multiple pathways where the individual has a lot more agency in their in and empowerment in what they're doing, and as well as the family members. So, for example, I spoke to a family that was in crisis yesterday, and they've been in crisis and this was just for mental health, not necessarily addiction. And the person that I was speaking to, the brother, he said, in 2 years, nobody has ever asked him what he needs. Yeah, and what would be helpful for him. And that just kind of blows my mind. So the whole family's in crisis about this one member. And the other thing that was apparent is everyone, friends, family, and everyone else has an opinion around what should happen. So our approach would be to kind of find out what the medical team's saying, yeah, find out what the family's life is like, find out what to take a much more holistic approach. And this family, they'd had a recent death in the family, there was divorce in the family, there was all sorts of other uh, life events that had happened where a lot of the response to this was sort of normal, but it was being pathologized. And yeah, sorry, I've gone down a route now, but it's but it's but
Not at all, David.
but
You
it's very similar. Like
yeah, yeah.
and I think the substance use is often a symptom of some other stuff that's happening. Um, and yeah, so that's the kind of the path that we go through. And it's
Mm. So you're spot on. You're right where you're right where you need to be. I mean, you're brilliant. Look,
thanks.
you know, yeah, look, I think the process that you talked about in getting there, uh, I think it is common, but most people don't get there. They get stuck in any one of them. But that if you take a retrospective view of where you're at, let me use a worn phrase. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. What I mean by that is all of that experience that you've had with 12 step, with biopsychosocial, all of that, all the stuff, all that experience is not it's knowledge. It's not something we get through, it's something we gain. It's something that it's a foundation. It's not to be discarded. And what I mean by that is if you can incorporate all of that, because it's all important. There's nothing there that you said that is necessarily, it's not rubbish. It's it, they all everything has value, but the skill is in picking the value out that works for the right patient at the right time
Yeah.
and doing the right thing. And that's what you've come to. So when someone asks what is my model is, or your model, not mine. Your model is the way I see it and we could use any terms we want. I can give you a bunch of terms, but it's a a client focused model that meets the client where they are at. It finds out what they want and needs, and then meets them and then provides treatment at the intersection of science and compassion. So, so what you're doing is saying this is. I always, you know what my first clinical question is in my clinic in my assessment? What is it that you want?
Hmm.
That's my first question. Before I even get to any symptoms or anything. Hi, my name is Bob Lynn. What is it that you want? And what have you done so far to get there? And how has that worked for you? That's where that's where I start. I don't start with, hey, how much drugs do you use? How often do you use them? You know, for me, I use the DSM as a doorstop, not as a. For me, it's only to get insurance. I think it's one of the worst things that was ever written. I I think it's a political, it's a model. I I have very bad feelings about the DSM. I have for years.
So,
It's
so let me, like my personal agenda here is my passion is teaching, and I like teaching people with lived experience to take that experience and turn it into a professional practice to improve treatment outcomes. And essentially what I'm looking for is a pathway that the people can go up to and get kind of academic credibility by saying, well, I've done this training and this is what the path was, and this is what we learned from the theory. This is the practice that I've done in it. This is our portfolio of evidence, and to bring that all together. So one that we skill people to go out into this marketplace with very marketable skills that affect change. That's one thing I want to do, and that there's credibility around and valid validity around our thinking and what the theory is. So because the other thing that I see out there now is every Tom, Dick, and Harry's a peer recovery specialist or a peer coach, and everyone's talking lived experience and all this sort of stuff. And it gets very murky between kind of 12-step sponsors and lived experience. And, it's still a bit of what do they call it? A shooting gallery.
Well, the I love uh the London Recovery Coaching Campus
Thank you.
because you know you might know by my some of my posts and maybe reading some of my stuff that I'm a strong I support coaching and that level of care very highly. I mean, I value it not, but the problem is the conundrum again is it always in most programs it's at the back end.
Yes,
After the
exactly.
I think it should be at the front end. And so there's a big difference there. That's not a small change, because for many programs, recovery coaching, as you're calling it, is an add-on at the
Mm,
end. I don't think I think it's essential at the beginning. I think that's where it starts. Matter of fact, and I mean this sincerely, David, many people don't need anything more. They start there, for some people, that's exactly what they need. They don't need some, CBT, DBT, EMDR, and they don't need to be inspected, detected, injected. They don't need all that. What they need is on the ground, real life coaching that can get them to what they want and need. And if they do need specialized care, that should be available either on a referral or in-house basis. But so if I'm working with you and I'm doing recovery coaching, and it comes up that you have these medical symptoms or whatever, we'll get you the care for that. That's not we won't discard that. But at the same time, the focus is going to be on the coaching, not on the clinical. At this point, it's on the clinical, and it doesn't make any sense. We take somebody, we put them in some place for 28 days, 30 days, 60 days, someplace 90 and more, and we do all this stuff, and then we put them back out, and they haven't had, and then we start and they fail. We wonder why. Well, they've never had the initial coaching from the beginning because the coaching at the beginning is the foundation. That's so for me, it's we got you. You need to flip the model, flip the system. So I love this. I love this recovery coaching thing because, and now go back. Let's go back. I will make sure that you feel that I've been listening. Go back to the credentialing issue and the whole muddy water with don't use the lived experience is such such a it's a glass ceiling, it's stigmatizing, it's not measurable, it's not even real. We you know, what is it, how much drugs well, you want to know how many drugs I used, what kind, where, what my experience was. you know I mean, it's you want me to go back out and use so that I can come back and get a job with based on lived it let's base it not on lived experience, but on the special knowledge that coaching brings based on the understanding of systems, community, and pathways to recovery. That's that's what I'd be teaching. I would be teaching systems work. How do you understand? And I can give you. I had a program. I was involved as an administrator in a program. It doesn't have, and take the focus off drugs alone. It's so we had a program in Camden, New Jersey. Was the murder capital of the United States. It was like the whole of the United States, and uh, we worked with coaches right from the beginning. But we team coach and we taught them systems work, how to understand how people interact, how to, Tim Harrington. Have you seen his work on LinkedIn? Check him out. He's on LinkedIn. He's a family. He has a family coaching program it's a great model, and I have not clinical. He doesn't call himself a therapist. You know, he takes away the stigma and he talks about empowering families and working with systems so that people can get what they need. It's all about coaching, and he's one of my go-to people. I really really like him a lot. He's in California. Uh, I think I think you can do this. I think so. In your you do you, let's talk about real objectives here. Let real time. Because we're talking about things. It's like we're preaching to the choir. We believe it sounds like we're on the same page.
We're very
Uh,
much on the same page. So,
yeah. So
so
so the question becomes, what does your curriculum need to look like? How do you do credentialing? There's all these. How do you create a system that is sustainable
so
and a
the
model?
curriculum, yeah, the curriculum's already been created, and there are 5 modules. Yeah, so it's the coaching conversation, continuums, the systems, a leadership model using coaching as a skill set as a and then creating the container, building bits of group work. And in the UK, the training CPD accredited. So this is a theory. This is how you track people. This is how you test the knowledge. There's all that. And then we've got the campus where we can watch people attend classes, watch them do coaching, doing all that sort of stuff. So that's in the UK. In the Netherlands, we're ISO 17024 compliant, which is an international standard as well on how to do that. So we've got all that stuff. Now, what we can do is we can measure the number of people that come to a class, the number of people that sign up, and then the number of people that complete. Yep, and that can be what's it, quantitative. Yep, number of people that come in. Here are the number of people, and usually about out of a class of 20, 2 people will go and complete the certification process because there's a lot of stuff that needs to happen. So about 10%. And you can understand if you go to a community and you say, well, we're going to be doing this every Tom, Dick, and Harry comes, but because of the rigor of the training, a lot of people drop off and go, oh no, that's not for me. However, it still makes an impact doing a training program where not everyone needs to become coaches, but they get to learn about active listening, motivational interviewing, wellness continuums, working in family systems, tracking progress. They get to learn that stuff as well. So that we can measure by the number of students. What I'm really interested in is from your side is how do you measure the effectiveness so that someone like you would be able to say, well, that is a well researched program that is scientifically valid, that isn't just David coming with his kind of narcissistic lived experience savior complex leaking out everywhere. It's not the David Collins show. There's some rigor there and thinking that is.
Yeah, David, David, I love that. I love the modules. I think they're spot on. Yeah, I think you're insightful and you're forward thinking, and I understand your challenge. Do we the measures first of all, when now I have to put on my academic hat.
Please do. Yeah.
I'm going to be a professor for a few minutes if you can bear with that. The so there's two ways we look. There's several ways we approach this. You mentioned quantitative. There's also qualitative, and we can do both. But the first thing you do academically, if we really want to make this, you really want to do if I really understand what you want to do, we begin by a really good literature review. It goes back to I've looked at the literature over and over again. It actually goes back to, oh God, way before anybody did addiction treatment. The literature is so you're on if we looked at it from, why am I doing this? What supports my jumping into these waters? Why should, what, how do I, am I doing this without a life jacket? No, you're doing it with a life jacket because there's precedent and there's historical evidence that what you're doing makes sense. That's so that as a professor, that's the first place you should always start. You can't start with my dog, with this, because research doesn't take place in a vacuum. It has to have, it has to have roots. It has to have study is not, you see, an outcome is not a static thing. It's a place to question and move to the next place. Research is not, it's not, I'm proving what I'm doing works as a model, lets everybody do it. That's the real problem with this whole evidence-based stuff. I got an evidence-based program and everybody should do it my way. No, that's not what you're looking for. What you're really looking for is that I am building a system that provides care that allow or provides care on a continual basis, meets people where they are, and I'm going to show that based on real-time data. So what we're going to do is collect data based on each experience. We can do it at that point, David, it becomes down to economics. And I'm and unfortunately, even the best intentions, you need to decide how much you want to invest in what you're talking about, because it's not, you know, there are different levels of research. As you know, I can tell by just listening to you that you're well informed. So I don't want to even, I don't want to sound like I can only respect and understand you. I get you. But there are different levels. There are everything from the gold standard of the double blind down to participant observation and collecting data based on uh, experience. But we have to understand that if we're going to do it based on our experience and make it, you know, just want to be really transparent, then we're going to have to really think about things like case mix, which is case mix is where is the client before they come to us? Yeah, what are they bringing to us? What is levels of severity? Because unfortunately, you get this data and people say we have a 90% success rate, and you have no idea with who or what that really means. It's all so you have several options. Let's get down to brass tacks, as it were. There is a organization uh, that I know of that you can speak to, who that's their business. That's what they do. It's called Vista. They work with programs to provide outcomes, and then use comparative data to other programs. I think they're very reasonable. They're the only people I know that actually do that. I mean, so it pays to talk to them. There's no cost. They're just just some people that you can talk to. If you want to create your own model, your own data system, then we could sit down and talk about who should help you, who what how do you do that? What are the what is it that you need? Uh, I really love what you're doing. So I don't believe in doing, you know, there's this whole garbage in, garbage out. You, I won't work with a program that I know is just they just want to prove that whatever they're doing uh, works, no, and and screen out what doesn't. I won't work. I won't do that. But the with a model with a system like yours, such a brilliant system and such so meaningful. There are AI experts that can be helpful using AI. Uh, and the
So
reason you could use AI is because, it short circuits the process in a way that is, you need the right person. You know, I would throw out a lot of the, esoteric traditional stuff that I mean, you're not in, get away from my dog's bigger than your dog. Go to, I want to do research to inform care. Use that as your model. I want to inform my
yeah,
care. I want the research to build my system, not to, not to compete with you. That at some point it becomes promotional, David. But that's not up front. When promotion is up front, then you screen out your failures and and you play with, nine out of 10 dentists prefer, we don't want to play that. Don't Let's not play that game. Let's get into this is, what you really want to capture is what you're doing and what that and how and what that really means and what that means to the client in real time, and I want to capture that over time. I mean, that's what I want. I would love this. Then you'd be able to get up at the conference. Yeah, one just ended in the UK. I don't know if you go to those things. Deirdre's conference. If you UCASAD, no, I don't blame you. Although I like her. I there are two conferences in your area that are pretty big. But anyway,
yeah,
you can go there.
I know them, and I know that I know the field. What I am doing is, first of all, I love the AI stuff, and because our training's kind of you start off as a peer recovery specialist, you go on to become a certified coach, you then become a systemic wellness practitioner, and that's someone who's working in a in this field, using the coaching training to help them in their professional role in a lived experienced organization or a charity or something. What I do is I record those sessions, and at the end of those, you can take the transcript from them and then apply AI tools to them to extrapolate data.
Exactly. You'll if your system is so powerful that that if I see if I had a one of my PhD students or my master's level students, uh, and they asked me what they should do as a post graduate, I'd say you should take David's course. I think I Would I mean that seriously.
Thank you.
I think that's the information that they never get. You don't get that in academia. Unfortunately, you get a back to religion. You if you get analytical, if you're in probably get behavioral. I mean, if it just goes on and on and on. Each that that's all of that is good stuff. It's not, I'm not, again, not, don't throw it out. Put it in your backpack because the next client that comes in, they may need that. But you're not building a clinical model. You're building a life sustaining model. That is, that is, that is very different. And I've only seen a few people doing what you're doing, David. I have not seen in all these years, I have to think just a few that have knocked on the same door as yours. There are you have some science about what you're doing, but you don't have a lot of you don't have a lot of friends.
That's true. Oh, thank you, Bob. That's you've made my day.
No, I love it. I love it. I think you're brilliant. I think what you're doing is so spot on that it excites me. And I you know I think what I'd like to do is rather than try and give you a quick answers, I'd like to think about this a little bit.
Please
Uh,
do. Please
I'd
do.
like to talk to some of my colleagues
Please do.
who I respect, and over the years have learned who I love and respect. You can imagine relationships that I have over these years.
Mm.
Uh, they're 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 very meaningful to me, David. I really do appreciate people, and I think I want to go back to the drawing board. I understand. I think, and if I have more questions, I'll get to you. Let me think about this for a little bit, and let's continue this conversation. Let's not draw.
So 1 second. We're doing a lot of work in this space. So we've developed virtual rooms as well, where so the idea is you can go into this virtual space, you can go in with a coach and get additional. So that's where we're moving to in the next step, because I really think that the tech is going to be more of an enabler for mental health.
I love it. If I was a lot younger and I lived in the UK, uh, I'd be on your doorstep. I think that I think that what we do now is I understand uh, uh, that you've not created, the most wonderful thing about this conversation, David, is you've not created any walls. You've not we haven't had one discussion about what we can't do, only what you can do. And for me, and we haven't even had one euphemism or one saying and one generalized saying. That's really odd. So I really uh I really love what you're doing. Let's do this then. Let me go back and do some thinking, talk to some people. Let's keep this conversation going. You keep moving forward because you're doing amazing things. And let's see if I this is not what I expected, quite frankly.
Okay.
I didn't I'm really quite excited about what you're doing, David. And I have a list of things that I don't want to call them obstacles, but but things that needs to be effaced. You're gonna face some real opposition from the academics and the clinical folks, and we want because they're gonna say, well, he's not doing treatment. Well, let's not see in the UK. I ran into a real problem in the UK, and I don't know if it's still the same way. You got to be careful. The lexicon, the way you define someone is there are these coveted words like therapy and counseling and if you use them wrong, you get in when I was working in the UK, you get in deep trouble. So when you say who you are and what you're doing, you have to really you don't want to be
It is a
stepping on someone's
minefield.
this whole this whole idea of scope of practice and what I can do, what I can't do. N- that's that muddy water that you were talking about earlier. So it goes way beyond coaching, I promise you. So uh
Yeah, but also, Bob, I mean, we still got the clinic in Africa, which is a 24-bed residential facility that people go in for medical detox. It's licensed, it's registered, it's and that we took quite a lot of, it was a lot of hoops to jump through to get that to get that. So I do know that world quite well. Um,
Where are you in Africa?
in Johannesburg, it's called the
Oh,
Foundation Clinic.
when we had our place in Johannesburg, and back in those days, we had to put people in like a compound for safety.
Yeah.
Seriously. And when they went to the mall or to go shopping, we gave them an escort. It was,
Yeah, I know Johannesburg. I mean, I lived there for 26 years. So,
no kidding.
yeah.
I didn't know that. So look at that. I'm learning more and more about you. Yeah.
Well, that,
You're
and I mean, that's really where the spirit, I learned about the spirit of Ubuntu.
ah,
And, yeah.
which
So,
is fantastic. That's
I
what I
mean,
said.
English people see me as South African.
Ah,
They
I
go,
didn't
who's
know.
that fucking mad South African?
But you have the English accent.
Not according to the English.
Really? To me,
Yeah.
you sound very, yeah. Look, having spent a good deal of time in the UK, the accents from Liverpool to Brighton are very
They
different.
change a lot, huh?
You know, I never could understand the Scouser kids. So that to me it sounds like I never I need an interpreter to work with the Scouser kids. So so I had so accents could be many, but and I'm from Brooklyn, New York, so I have I have my own special accent. But let's we need to keep this going if that's okay with you.
Please, I'd love your wisdom. Thank you so much for your time, your elder energy. Are you all right if with the recording?
Oh yeah. I think that I don't for me
I'm
I'm
gonna
way beyond worrying about that thinking about
I'm
those
gonna
things.
run it through AI and then see what wisdom we get, and then I'll if you're okay, I'll just tell our students about you and the
Yeah,
work.
let's keep moving forward, and I'm sure you know you know we're bound to gain something from each other, and because I'm learning from you as you're learning from me. I love that feeling. So let's keep going, and we'll just give me some time, and then we'll schedule another meeting if that works for you. And if you want to bring in anybody else, that's okay as well.
Great. Lots of love. Thank you so much, Bob.
Okay.
Have a
Okay.
nice day out there. What time
Have
is
a
it
great
there?
day. It's not it's 9 a.m. and it's time for me to go down and get on I live on a small farm and so I got up early and took care of the horses and everything. And now my wife and I are going to go on our boat for a little ride this afternoon. So
Where are you on the West Coast?
I'm on the West Coast. Yeah, I'm on this I'm in Southwest, what they call state of Washington, Southwest.
Okay.
Then beautiful, near Mount St. Helens and Mount Hood, and just incredible area, just breathtaking.
Lots of love, my friend. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for your time. Bye
my
bye.
pleasure.